Emma never wanted to move into Linda's house. Even as she carried the last cardboard box through the front door, every instinct inside her whispered it was a mistake. But their home renovation had gone terribly over budget after a pipe burst in the kitchen walls, and staying with Daniel's mother for just 3 weeks seemed like the only reasonable option. Linda welcomed them with a tight smile that never reached her eyes. "Well," she said while glancing around at their luggage, "I suppose we'll survive the chaos." Emma forced a laugh while holding old Sophie's hand tighter. Sophie hid partly behind her mother's leg, her long chestnut hair hanging almost to her waist in soft waves. Emma noticed Linda staring at it immediately. "My goodness," Linda muttered, "that's a lot of hair for a child." Sophie touched it protectively. Emma knelt beside her daughter and smiled gently. "Grandma Rose used to braid it every morning, remember?" Sophie nodded quietly. Before she passed away 2 years earlier, Emma's mother had spent every Sunday teaching Sophie little braid styles beside the kitchen window. Since then, Sophie refused to cut her hair. It made her feel close to Grandma Rose. Linda rolled her eyes the moment Sophie walked upstairs. "That child is too sensitive," she whispered. Emma pretended not to hear. The real problem wasn't Linda alone. It was Brianna. Daniel's younger sister treated life like one endless social media performance. Every meal became a photo shoot. Every conversation somehow turned into content. She walked through the house carrying ring lights and talking loudly to invisible followers. "Family vibes only," Brianna shouted into her phone that afternoon while recording herself in the kitchen. Emma quickly pulled Sophie away from the camera. Brianna frowned. "Relax, Emma. Nobody's kidnapping her." "She doesn't like being filmed," Emma answered firmly. Linda sighed dramatically from the dining room. "You're raising her to fear everything." Emma stayed silent because arguing never helped. By Saturday evening, Linda hosted a backyard barbecue for relatives and neighbors. Music played through speakers while Brianna filmed TikToks near the pool. Emma spent most of the evening helping prepare food while Daniel grilled outside. Sophie became overwhelmed by the noise. "Mama," she whispered softly, tugging Emma's sleeve, "can I go upstairs for a little?" Emma brushed hair from her daughter's face. "Of course, sweetheart, go rest for a while." Sophie disappeared upstairs clutching her stuffed rabbit. Emma should have followed her. Nearly 40 minutes later, Emma carried lemonade trays through the kitchen when she heard sudden laughter from upstairs. Not normal laughter, loud, cruel laughter mixed with Brianna's excited voice. "Oh my God, keep recording." Emma froze. Then came Sophie's scream, a scream so terrified and heartbroken that the tray slipped from Emma's hands and shattered across the tile floor. She ran upstairs. The bedroom door was half open. Inside, Sophie sat on the bathroom stool, sobbing hysterically, while chunks of chestnut hair covered the white floor like fallen leaves. One side of her hair had been hacked unevenly above her chin. Brianna stood behind her holding scissors in one hand and a phone in the other. Linda laughed from the doorway. "She looks adorable." Brianna shouted while filming, "Guys, this makeover is insane." Sophie saw her mother and burst into uncontrollable tears. "Mama, I told them no," she cried. "I told them stop." Emma felt something inside her go cold. "What did you do?" she whispered. Brianna blinked, surprised by Emma's voice. "It's just a prank," she said. "People love transformation videos." Emma slowly walked toward Sophie, whose small shoulders shook violently. Linda crossed her arms. "Don't overreact. Hair grows back." Emma wrapped Sophie in her arms. Tiny pieces of cut hair stuck to Sophie's wet cheeks. She begged them to stop. Emma realized. Brianna kept recording. "Honestly, Emma, your daughter's reaction is reality TV gold." Emma turned slowly. "Put the phone down." Something in her voice finally made Brianna hesitate. Downstairs, music still played while guests laughed outside, completely unaware that upstairs an 8-year-old little girl's heart had just been shattered for entertainment. And Emma, holding her sobbing daughter against her chest, silently promised herself one thing. Before this night ended, Linda and Brianna would regret what they had done. Sophie refused to come out of the bathroom for nearly an hour. Emma sat on the cold tile floor beside her daughter, while carefully trying to even out the jagged chunks of hair with trembling fingers. Every time Sophie accidentally looked into the mirror, fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. "I look ugly," she whispered. The words stabbed straight through Emma's chest. "No, sweetheart," Emma said softly. "You are beautiful. Hair doesn't change that." But Sophie only lowered her head further. "They laughed at me." Emma swallowed the rage burning in her throat. She wanted to storm downstairs immediately. She wanted to scream. Instead, she focused on calming her daughter first. Outside the bathroom door, Daniel finally appeared. "What happened?" he asked nervously. Emma stood slowly and stepped into the hallway before Sophie could hear the conversation. "What happened?" she repeated in disbelief. "Your sister held our child down while your mother laughed and filmed it." Daniel rubbed his forehead. "Mom said Brianna was only trying to give her a little makeover." Emma stared at him. "A makeover," she whispered dangerously. Sophie begged them to stop. Daniel looked uncomfortable, the same way he always looked whenever conflict involved his mother. "I'll talk to them," he muttered weakly. Emma's disappointment hurt almost as much as her anger. "You should have protected her." Before Daniel could answer, Brianna suddenly burst upstairs laughing at her phone screen. "Oh my God," she said excitedly. "The comments are exploding already." Emma's stomach dropped. "What comments?" Brianna looked up innocently. "The video comments." Emma snatched the phone from her hand. The screen showed Sophie crying in the bathroom chair, while Brianna dramatically chopped off her hair. Sad music played over the clip. Captions flashed across the screen. "Pav, your niece needed a glow up. Wait for the meltdown." Thousands of views already flooded the video. And the comments were worse. "Why is the kid crying like that? This feels mean. Somebody save that little girl." Emma's hands shook violently. "You posted this?" she asked quietly. Brianna rolled her eyes. "Relax, it's trending." Without another word, Emma deleted the video directly from Brianna's account. Brianna gasped, "Are you insane? That video had 50,000 views already." Linda stormed upstairs moments later. "What is wrong with you?" she snapped at Emma. "Brianna works hard for her platform." Emma stepped closer. "She exploited my child for likes." Linda folded her arms. "You're acting dramatic over a haircut." "No," Emma answered coldly. "I'm reacting to cruelty." Linda scoffed. "Kids today are too soft." Emma almost replied, but Sophie suddenly emerged from the bathroom holding her stuffed rabbit tightly against her chest. Her uneven hair framed her tear-stained face horribly. The house went silent. Even Brianna looked briefly uncomfortable. Sophie stared directly at her aunt. "Why do you hate me?" she asked softly. Brianna's expression faltered. Before anyone could answer, Sophie walked downstairs and disappeared into the guest room. Emma followed her a few minutes later and found Sophie curled beneath blankets facing the wall. "Mama," Sophie whispered weakly. "Yes, baby. The kids at school already make fun of me because I'm quiet." Emma felt her heart crack. "And now they'll laugh harder." That was the moment something inside Emma finally hardened completely. Later that evening, while Sophie slept beside her, Emma sat alone in the kitchen, scrolling through old financial emails on Daniel's laptop. She had started looking for nearby children's salons, hoping to fix Sophie's hair. Instead, she found bank transfers. Large ones, transfers from Sophie's education trust fund into Linda's account months earlier. Emma frowned and opened more files. Then more. A terrible picture slowly formed. Linda had secretly borrowed money from Sophie's inheritance fund to help Brianna cover massive credit card debt tied to her failing influencer career. Emma's breathing slowed. Hidden beneath folders were desperate text messages between Linda and Brianna. "She'll never notice. We just need time before replacing it." Emma stared at the screen in disbelief. They hadn't only humiliated her daughter, they had stolen from her too. Upstairs, Brianna suddenly started another live stream, laughing loudly as if nothing had happened. Emma quietly copied every file onto a flash drive. Then she opened her email. If Linda and Brianna loved attention so much, Emma decided, then tonight they could finally have all of it. By 11:30 that night, the house still buzzed with fake normalcy. Downstairs, Linda sat in the living room drinking wine while pretending nothing had happened. Brianna lounged across the couch, scrolling through her phone, laughing every few seconds. She deleted the video, but people already reposted clips. Brianna said smugly, "Honestly, the drama's making my account grow faster." Emma stood silently in the hallway listening. Not once had either woman asked how Sophie was feeling, not once had they apologized. Upstairs, Sophie finally slept after crying herself exhausted. Emma had stayed beside her for hours, stroking her uneven hair while whispering stories Grandma Rose used to tell. The poor child had clung to her hand even in sleep, as if afraid someone else might hurt her again. Emma gently closed the bedroom door and walked downstairs holding her phone. Daniel sat alone at the dining table, staring at the financial documents Emma had printed earlier. His face looked pale. "You knew?" Emma asked quietly. "No." He whispered immediately. "I swear to you, Emma, I didn't know Mom touched Sophie's trust fund." Emma believed him. That was the tragedy of Daniel. He wasn't cruel like Linda or selfish like Brianna. He was weak. His entire life had been built around keeping peace with his mother. But tonight, peace was over. Linda noticed the papers in Daniel's hands and frowned. "What's all this?" Daniel slowly looked up. "Did you steal from Sophie?" The room froze. Brianna sat upright instantly. "Excuse me?" Linda laughed nervously. "Don't be ridiculous." Emma stepped forward and placed the flash drive onto the coffee table. "I found the transfers," she said calmly. "And the messages." For the first time all evening, genuine fear flickered across Linda's face. That money was temporary. Linda snapped quickly. "I was going to return it. You took money from an 8-year-old child," Emma replied. Brianna suddenly stood. "Mom only helped me because I was drowning." Emma looked directly at her. "You were drowning because you spent thousands pretending to be famous online." Brianna's cheeks flushed red. Before she could respond, her phone suddenly exploded with notification sounds. Then Linda's phone rang. Then Daniel's, the entire room filled with vibrating alerts. Brianna frowned and checked her screen. Her expression collapsed instantly. "No," she whispered. Emma remained perfectly still. Hours earlier, while everyone ignored Sophie's pain, Emma had quietly emailed the haircut video screenshots, financial evidence, and text messages to Brianna's sponsors, several relatives, and even a popular online drama page that exposed influencer scandals. And now the internet was responding. Brianna's livestream comments were flooding with outrage. "You bullied a child. Disgusting family. Hope sponsors see this." One by one, her brand partnerships began disappearing from her profile. A cosmetics company publicly commented they were ending collaboration due to harmful behavior involving a minor. Brianna stared at the screen in horror. "My sponsorships." Another notification appeared, then another. Linda's phone rang again. This time it was Daniel's aunt screaming through the speaker. "You stole from Sophie." Linda's composure shattered. "I can't explain." "No," Daniel interrupted sharply. Everyone looked at him in shock. For the first time since Emma had known him, his voice carried anger toward his mother. "You used my daughter's money," he said, "and you let Brianna humiliate her." Linda's eyes widened. "Daniel, don't turn against family over one misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding," Emma repeated coldly. At that exact moment, loud knocking echoed through the front door. 3 hard knocks, everyone froze. Emma already knew who it was. Earlier that night, after finding the financial records, she had contacted her lawyer friend, who immediately helped file emergency fraud paperwork regarding Sophie's protected trust account. Daniel slowly opened the door. 2 police officers stood outside. Linda's wine glass slipped from her fingers and shattered across the floor. Brianna burst into tears. "Mom, do something." But Linda looked suddenly old, small, cornered. One officer asked calmly, "Mrs. Linda Harper?" Emma glanced upstairs toward the guest room where Sophie slept peacefully for the first time all night. Then she looked back at Linda and Brianna as panic finally consumed them both. And deep inside, Emma felt something unexpected. Not guilt, justice. The sun had barely risen when Emma finished packing the car. The air outside felt cold and quiet, almost unreal after the chaos of the night before. Sophie sat silently in the backseat, hugging her stuffed rabbit while soft morning light touched her uneven hair. Emma looked at her through the mirror. "You okay, sweetheart?" Sophie nodded a little, though her eyes still looked tired and swollen from crying. Behind them, the front door suddenly opened. Daniel walked outside carrying the last suitcase. For a second, Emma wasn't sure if he would stop beside the car or return to the house behind him, the house where he had spent his entire life obeying Linda's control. But then he placed the suitcase into the trunk and quietly said, "I'm coming with you." Emma stared at him carefully. "What about your mother?" Daniel looked back toward the house. Police cars still lined the street, while curtains twitched in nearby windows. Neighbors were already gossiping. "She made her choice," he answered softly. "Now I'm making mine." For the first time in years, Emma saw something stronger than fear inside him. She nodded once and got into the car. As they drove away, Sophie finally whispered from the back seat, "Are Grandma Linda and Aunt Brianna mad at me?" Emma's heart broke all over again. "No, baby," she said firmly. "None of this was your fault." Sophie looked down at her rabbit. "Then why did they hurt me?" Neither Emma nor Daniel answered immediately. Some questions were too cruel for children to understand. Weeks passed slowly after that night. Linda's situation became worse by the day. Several relatives cut contact after learning she stole money from Sophie's trust fund. The legal investigation forced her to repay every dollar, and the humiliation spread quickly through the family. Brianna's online career collapsed even faster. The haircut prank had been reposted everywhere alongside screenshots of hateful comments and accusations of child exploitation. More sponsors abandoned her each week. Her follower count dropped rapidly, and eventually she disabled comments entirely before disappearing from social media altogether. But Emma discovered something surprising. Revenge did not feel loud or exciting. It felt quiet, like finally locking a door after years of leaving it open for people who brought pain inside. The most important part was Sophie. At first, she barely spoke at school. She wore hoodies constantly and avoided mirrors whenever possible. But Emma stayed patient. Every night she brushed Sophie's short hair gently and reminded her that beauty never lived in hair alone. Then one Saturday morning, Emma took her to a small children's salon downtown. The stylist, a kind older woman named Carla, knelt beside Sophie warmly. "Your hair isn't ruined," Carla promised gently. "We're just giving it a fresh little adventure." For the first time since the incident, Sophie smiled. Not a big smile, but enough. Carla carefully reshaped the uneven haircut into a soft shoulder-length style with tiny layers that framed Sophie's face beautifully. When Sophie finally looked into the mirror, her eyes widened. "I don't look weird anymore," she whispered. Emma nearly cried right there in the salon chair. A month later, Sophie stood in front of her third-grade class, giving a small presentation about bullying and kindness. Her teacher later emailed Emma saying several students cried during Sophie's speech. "She's braver than she realizes," the teacher wrote. That night, Emma tucked Sophie into bed while rain tapped softly against the windows. "Mama?" Sophie asked sleepily. "Yes, sweetheart. Can you braid my hair like Grandma Rose used to?" Emma's chest tightened. Sophie's hair was much shorter now, but Emma carefully divided the soft strands anyway, fingers moving slowly through familiar motions her mother once taught her. When she finished, Sophie touched the tiny braid and smiled. "It still works," she whispered happily. Emma kissed her forehead gently. "Yes," she said softly, "it still works." As Sophie drifted to sleep peacefully, Emma finally understood something important. The sweetest revenge had never been destroying Linda or Brianna. It was protecting her daughter. It was exposing cruelty instead of staying silent. And it was teaching Sophie that no one, not even family, had the right to hurt her and call it love.